Hey, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Dan Whitfield. I'm the Progressive Independent candidate here in Arkansas. And, let me see here. Make sure my audio is working with Miss June. Can you hear me now, June? Let's see. Oh, it says June is connecting to audio. So she's still connecting to audio real quick. Let's see here. I may have to go ahead and give her a call. And we can do this. We'll do audio through my phone and then do Zoom.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, June. Yeah, I can hear you now. If you want, we can do Zoom for video and we can do audio over my phone.
Yeah, that'll work.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. I lost your video, though, now on Zoom.
Okay, I'm not on video now?
Let's see here. Well, you are not on video now. It may be because... Are you doing Zoom from your phone right now?
I was trying to, yeah.
Okay. It might be because your Zoom is minimized on your phone and it focused over to the call when I called you.
Okay, so do you need to do this from my landline then?
Yeah, why don't you give me a call from your landline?
Okay, hang on a second. Let me dial it right now.
All right. All right, sorry about that, guys. She's getting all set up real quick. So my name is Dan Whitfield. I am the Progressive candidate running here in Arkansas. There we go. Hey, how are you doing, June?
I'm doing good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
All right, good.
Awesome. Wow, I can actually take my headset off. This is nice.
That's good.
All right. So June is a progressive Democrat running here in Arkansas for our state legislative seat in the District 74. So how are you doing, June?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. Well,
I'll be glad when the election's over.
yeah, it's always a stressful time, even more so for the candidates
Yes.
than it is the people that are trying to figure out who they're going to vote for.
That's correct.
So let's just jump right into it. My first question is, do you support Medicare for all?
Yes, I do. Our country is moving in that direction anyway. Bottom line is, private health care plans that are offered through your employer, they only give you really the illusion of security, because in most states, you can lose your job at any moment for any reason. Arkansas, for instance, is a fire at will state.
Mm-hmm.
So if your health insurance is connected to your employer, that if you do get fired, even though it's not your fault, you're going to lose your insurance. And a lot of people realized that during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, with COBRA, you do have the option of keeping it after you've lost your job, but the rates are typically so high, when you're unemployed especially, there's no way you can afford to keep your insurance. So when you really look at it, Medicare for all is the answer. And plus, also if you have Medicare for all, that would cut out the middleman, the insurance companies, and the rates would be less overall.
Yeah, they really would. So can you just tell everyone real quick, what is the average household income in your district?
Okay, in my district, it's less than $25,000 a year for a family of 5, which is way, way, way below the poverty level.
Yeah, that's insane. How I couldn't imagine trying to feed my family of 3 with less than $25,000 a year. It's really, really difficult. And these are hardworking people, hardworking American citizens. So when you start talking about policies like Medicare for all, what a lot of people need to understand first off is that if you make less than $29,000 a year, there's no cost for Medicare for all. If you already qualify for Medicaid, you don't have to pay anything for Medicare for All. So by supporting Medicare for All in your district, you're actually supporting the average family in your district to have free medical care.
Correct. Basically, everybody would be covered.
Right, and you can't go wrong when everybody has medical insurance and you don't have to worry about someone you care about or someone you know dying because they can't afford a procedure or their prescription pills or something like that.
Right. Well, bankruptcy, I'm also a lawyer, so I handle bankruptcies, and one of the number one causes of bankruptcies is medical bills. So if you end up in the hospital, let's say for a month, due to COVID, on a ventilator, those medical bills are going to probably be about $500,000.
Oh my gosh.
There's no way anybody could afford to pay that, even out over, time. It's impossible. So it's going to be pushing a lot of people into filing bankruptcy.
It really is. Well, and I think the really important aspect you hit on, like when we first started talking about it too, is that the problem that we're seeing is employment-based healthcare. Well, what happens when you lose your job? Now you lose your healthcare. And that's something a lot of people aren't talking about. So thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, no problem.
Awesome. So let's move on to our next question here. Our next question is about student debt. So as a lawyer, I'm sure you have gone through college and experienced what it's like to be a student and incur those student debts. Do you support eliminating student debt?
Well, I'm still paying off my student debt from undergrad, and I graduated in 1995.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm still paying that off. It's basically, it's like an extra weight on these people who have struggled through college, gotten their degree, they're ready to enter the workforce, and like for my circumstance, it was like I had to also, take and pass the Arkansas bar exam. And it's like you got the pressure of trying to study for the exam, your student loan payments are going to come due, and if I didn't make it the first shot, then I would have had to wait 6 more months to take the bar exam again, and then meanwhile my student loans would have been coming due. And what you're seeing is people that are doctors and lawyers that everybody assumes makes lots of money. And some of them do, don't get me wrong, but then some of us don't, okay? It's like trying to struggle to pay the minimum balance each month on your student loan payments, plus possibly a car payment, a mortgage, regular utilities that everybody pays. And if you have a child, everybody knows that children come with lots of extra bills. I mean, braces are not cheap. Neither is child care. So when you add all that up, it's like, yes, by going to college, you do tend to make twice the amount that you would have made if you had not. But you also have the student loan debt that follows you through your adulthood.
Right.
Like I said, I graduated back in 95, and I'm still paying on my student loan.
And just curious, is a lot of that interest that you've just been paying off and it doesn't help your principal?
I mean, it takes forever just to get whittled down. If you're just making the minimum payments every month, it takes forever. And then when I went back to law school, I had my payments deferred for 3 years of law school. So it's like it just takes forever to get it paid off. I mean, basically when you get a student loan, it goes out, I think, for like 30 years. So basically it's kind of like a mortgage.
Right. Man.
So by going to college, you're going to make more money, but it's just that much harder for you to get, like, a house paid off because you got this extra debt following you. And the thing is, like in Europe, college education is free or almost free.
Yeah, and like you said, it's that burden, that weight on your shoulders, and we have children trying to make that choice of, and a lot of these children are children, they're teenagers who just gotten out of high school, and now they're incurring these just enormous amounts of debt. at such a young age before they even understand the fiscal responsibility of what that debt means to them. So,
right. The other thing too is like when you graduate from college, I mean, you're looking for your first job.
mm-hmm.
And you still encounter the problem of a lot of places won't hire you so you don't have any experience. So how are you supposed to get the experience if nobody's going to give you a chance?
Mm-hmm.
You have that. So sometimes you get some college grads that end up for the first, year just taking anything, including doing like debt collection calls, just to make the minimum payments on their loans, the student loans, or to pay for their car payment or whatever. It's just really hard. And then nowadays you have like this whole like boomerang generation. Basically, it's kids that left home to go to college, but they had to come back home to live with their parents because of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
or because the economy crashed, basically. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot that everybody is having to deal with right now.
Right. Well, hopefully,
our government has to move in to solve some of these problems head on.
absolutely. And hopefully we can get rid of student debt. That way, when we do have our children and hardworking Americans like myself, I mean, I'm 33 years old and I'm still working on my degree. So there are a lot of hardworking Americans out there trying to get their degrees to better their lives, to help better society. And once we can take this burden off their shoulders, that's when we can finally unleash the potential of so many Americans to bettering our society and moving us forward in the future. Awesome. Well, that's my question about student debt. I'm glad you support eliminating it. We need to make sure that we're getting more people on this train of thought and understanding how important it is that we do eliminate student debt. And it will cost money. It's not going to be free. It's going to be about $1.6 trillion. But if we can afford to inject $6.5 trillion like into Wall Street back in March, so billionaires could pull all their stocks out of the market while our 401ks crashed, then we can afford to inject $1.6 trillion into bettering the future of our society, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's.
Not only that, but the first, thing that Trump and the Republicans tackled after he got elected 4 years ago was to give the rich a tax break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Yeah, was it $2.3 trillion, I think, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act?
4 zeros. That's all I know.
Yeah, so I mean, if we can afford to bail out billionaires and the ultra wealthy, we can afford to bail out the hardworking Americans that are keeping our society going, the foundation of who we are.
Right.
Awesome. So my next question is about climate change. So I know you have environmental policy is really important to you. We've talked about it before a couple times. And so do you support the Green New Deal, or what kind of climate legislations do you support to try to avert this climate crisis that we're facing?
Climate change and steps to address it, honestly, it's been taking a back burner for years. I remember when I was an undergrad back in the early 1990s, being involved. I was a vice president of our college's environmental club. And I remember trying to get people involved in it, but it's a lot of times people are just busy, like in their regular lives, and everything that's important gets kind of a back burner.
Mm-hmm.
But it's at a point now where we can't do that anymore. I mean, the Amazon's burning. We got Colorado on fire. Everybody saw the footage this fall of California, Washington, and Oregon on fire.
Mm-hmm.
We got both ice caps, both of them, are melting. We have so many hurricanes now that we ran out of letters of the alphabet to name them.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to get worse. And so we have to do whatever we can now. We're going to have to all pitch in. According to the research that I did, they're saying we have to plant 1 trillion trees. And only certain areas of the world really are ideal for tree plants because of the soil and the climate, etc. The number one country was Russia. But Russia really has no incentive to try to stop climate change because they're the one country that's going to benefit from climate change, who's melting their like ice routes to export their oil.
Mm-hmm.
The number 2 country for tree planting actually is the United States. And Trump did pledge 1 trillion trees to be, planted in the United States. But the problem is 1 trillion trees in the United States is basically twice the land area of the United States. So, number one, it's humanly impossible for us alone to do it, but we're going to have trees planted in other countries, and other countries are pitching in. But we have to do our part. And trees, not only are they beautiful, but they can also add to the value of your home. If you put a really nice, ornamental tree in your front yard,
mm-hmm.
it can actually increase the value of your home. If you get a tree planted that bears nuts or fruit, you can, harvest that and donate it to your local food bank. There are a lot of families right now that are desperate for food because of COVID. They lost their job. Unemployment's only going to last so long, and then that's going to run out.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to get some fruit and nut trees planted. We have to all pitch in and do our part. Recycling, obviously, is very important. Reuse everything as much as possible before you throw it away. There's little things everybody can do to try to pitch in. Now, my big platform idea is the advancement of solar and wind power in Arkansas. There's a couple regions in Arkansas where we have mountains that have level 4 winds in them. That's perfect for windmills. I've done the research on it, and my region is one of them. So the private landowners, the average Joe up in the mountains who owns this property, they can lease it out to a wind energy company and get a check. Now, our neighboring states, a lot of them are going wind. I researched some of the contracts I found on the internet for Kansas,
mm-hmm.
which is, pretty close by. The windmills in Kansas brings to the farmers $7,000 a year per turbine, typically.
Wow.
Plus,
wow.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You could put new turbines on your land if it's a big enough piece of property. You don't have to worry about any kind of trade war with anybody. It's like a guaranteed check because it's a 20-year or a 30-year contract. So it's guaranteed income for your family for the next 20 or 30 years. And you can still have cows out there grazing in the pasture. There's just going to be, turbines out there also. And if they put in the contract a good neighbor clause, then that would mean that your neighbors that live within a quarter mile of your turbine also gets a check for $3,000. So it's kind of like a way to kind of be neighborly and help spread the wealth around. And then if they would spend that money locally, that would be a way to help support small businesses that are desperately needing shoppers right now. And then it could also help them expand and, help the local unemployment rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you all know, wind turbines do not cause cancer, okay? They don't.
Yeah,
So.
You know what that was all about, honestly? That was just, okay, the financial backers of the Republican Party are oil, coal, and gas. Those
Mm-hmm.
are like the big three. So you remember in the prior conventions, you heard them all chanting, drill, baby, drill. Yeah, they're all the backers of the Republicans. So you have a Republican administration that's trying to favor their own financial backers to the financial detriment of we the people who have the property that can make money by leasing out space to wind turbines, which is also healthier for the planet. So it's just, I cannot tell you how wrong what is happening right now in D.C. with that. We've got to get big business out of the pockets of the politicians.
Absolutely.
Or politicians out of the pockets of the big business. Because right now, that's where the Republican Party lies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where their loyalty lies. And that's a huge problem.
And another thing to talk about real quick before we move away from the subject of those wind turbines is it also creates a lot of good jobs because you need someone to maintain them. When they break, you need someone to fix them. Those are good paying jobs, specialized jobs where if, one of some people in your community decide to take this incentive, then now you have the opportunity to make upwards of $30 to $40 or $50 an hour working one of these good jobs in it's a healthy job. A lot of places that are going to be switching and transitioning from fossil fuels to wind energy, you don't have to work over diesel fuel pits anymore. You don't have to work without a respirator. Your job's safer. You're getting more money. You're not working 12 on, 12 off, or even worse than that. Some people work like 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 1 month on, a few days off. You'll have better hours, better benefits, better everything. So it's really good for the property owners, for the planet, the environment, for the people who are getting the jobs to maintain these structures as well. So it's a win-win all the way around.
Your viewers can Google for themselves right now. What is the average salary for a wind turbine technician? I did that. The answer is $50,000 a year.
Wow.
Which is twice the average household income in my district.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good paying jobs. You can go home at night knowing that you're helping the planet instead of polluting it. I mean, it's the future. If you look, in Europe, they're all going to wind and solar. It's just, by us having certain parts of our country not, it's like we're just going to be lagging further and further behind, and it's not good.
Right.
So we all have to pitch in and work together to get renewable energy, wind, solar, hydro, encouraged in Arkansas. It'll create some jobs, which we all need. We're doing our part to combat climate change. It also will lower your bills, your monthly bills. I talked to a farmer, to his manager actually, of his, he owns the largest solar energy field in Arkansas. It's privately owned. He's in Lonoke County. I talked to his manager on the phone back in February. And by going solar, it brought his utility bills down by 75%.
Wow.
That is a huge drop in your utility bills. Because he was telling me, like, how much, the power they had to use. They grew multiple crops there. It was like soybeans. They had corn, they had wheat, they had a whole bunch of different crops they were growing. I had no idea of how much, power was needed for that. So I started talking to the manager, and he said, I talked to him, basically I called him, I said, I honestly have to know. I said, you're not trying to sell me anything. You're not trying to sell me solar or wind or anything. Because I just want to know, you guys went to solar, is it good or is it bad? And he said, you will never regret going solar.
Right. And you guys have a chicken processing plant out there, right?
We've got a lot of chicken processing plants in this district, yes.
So these processing facilities can use solar to save on their own utilities as well, to raise their profit margins also.
That, and plus the farmers that are growing the farmers that have the chickens, that are taking care of the chickens, like their babies and stuff, they spend a lot of money on their utility bills, keeping it warm in there so that the chicks, survive. Mm-hmm. So if they switch over to solar, they could also save money on their bills.
So, I mean, it's good for the planet, for the citizens, for the business owners, for everybody. It's good all the way around.
Right. Like I said, there's only a couple areas that are prime for wind. And basically it's along the mountaintops, along the mountain ridges. Everywhere else basically is good to go for solar.
Awesome. Cool. Well, that's my question about climate change. I love your answers. I love how you've done so much research into how the different sources of renewable energies would be better in different areas. So that's awesome. I mean, I don't have too many other questions because we kind of hit on everything. How do you feel about a stimulus package for Americans right now during this COVID-19 pandemic?
It's absolutely necessary. families that, they're barely clinging on, We have to get them some more help. There is no cure ready to go right now. I mean, I know Trump keeps saying it's around the corner, it's around the corner. That kind of reminds me of, like, when you're a kid and you're traveling, on vacation with your parents.
Are we there yet?
Like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And your mom keeps saying, yeah, a little bit, a little bit. We need to know when this is going to be over. We need to have a projection date, something, instead of it's around the corner. It's not. The information that I've been hearing basically is probably not until at the earliest, the middle of next year, until we can really get, massive amounts of vaccinations dispersed. Plus, you're going to have probably about half the population, is my guess, is going to refuse to take the vaccination for either religious reasons or because they don't trust the source or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, you're going to always have that virus lingering in the population. And then the vaccination itself, I don't think anybody's going to be able to know for sure how long it's going to be good for. It might be more along the lines of like a booster shot. We have to go back periodically to get another one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially because it's a virus. It mutates. It does change, just like influenza A and B do. So yeah, awesome. We do need another stimulus. It's very, 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 very important, especially here in Arkansas, where just yesterday we hit again yet another new daily record of 1,337 cases in a single 24-hour span. So it is still very much.
Democrats in Congress, they're trying to get a stimulus package.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is Mitch McConnell's refusing.
Yeah, they've really dropped the ball on this. They had no problem with the CARES Act in the beginning, making sure that they had an unaccountable way to basically create a giant corporate slush fund and to funnel tax dollars into corporations' pockets. And they say small businesses as well. But unfortunately, here in Arkansas, we saw a lot of small businesses that didn't receive a penny because the money was already sucked up by the time they were able to get their claim submitted. And this actually was interesting to talk about real fast. I haven't really talked about it almost at all. But our governor, Asa Hutchinson, actually released an email a day early and opened the system early for his buddies to get money from the CARES Act, while other Arkansas businesses were unable to get that same opportunity and ended up not getting any money at all and losing their business because of it. So
you're talking about that $15 million that went out without legislative approval?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the portal opened up at midnight.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, to basically Republican insiders who got the tip that it was going to be opening. They were all lined up with their hands out.
Mm-hmm.
And then regular, small business owners, they didn't have a clue. And the money was gone in less than a half an hour. And then I read a newspaper article about it back in April.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the next day, I think they had to have a special session.
To approve more.
In order to approve more money to go out, because that went out without their approval, basically.
And they got away with it.
And
I can't believe it.
I read an article actually last week. We only have, I think it was about $80 million left of the CARES Act money that was sent to Arkansas. So once that runs out, if Congress does not approve more money to come to our state, that's all, folks. Yeah,
we're hosed, and it's not like we're a wealthy state. We have enough money in reserves to be able to continue to supply, our first responders with PPE and things like that as well, and right. Especially our teachers.
In the Arkansas Constitution, we have to have a balanced budget. We cannot go negative like the federal government can.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had businesses that were shut down for several months because of COVID, or that did not reopen at all because of COVID. Or maybe if it's a restaurant, maybe they just open up the drive-thru but not the inside. Okay, so that meant they had probably less sales, which means they're paying in less sales tax to the state. And the state can only use the revenue is, brought in to pay for programs. So if we don't get another stimulus package from the Fed, something similar to the CARES Act, you're going to be talking about, unfortunately, our state being forced to make some really hard budget decisions, including cuts, because the tax revenue is not going to be there to pay for the spending. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But next year, it's going to get real bad if we don't, get some people in there to fix it.
Well, I would really like to see Mitch McConnell get replaced. I mean, not just because he's a GOP operative or a Republican, but him as a person, the fact that he has several hundred bills sitting on his desk that he refuses to even put up for a vote, which is what I consider the opposite of a democracy, is when you pick and choose what you even want people to be able to vote on. So I'm really hoping he does get replaced. I know he's having health issues right now. We'll see what happens. Of course, I wish him and his family the best. I don't wish anything ill upon anyone, but I do hope that I think it's Amy McGrath who is against him right now. I hope she does prevail. That way, hopefully, she can take some of these bills that have already been passed through the House and put them up for vote in the Senate, because it's about time people start to have an actual choice to vote on something or not.
Yes, I agree. And what Mitch McConnell has been doing basically is a dereliction of duty.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
He's refusing to do his job. The House passed a whole bunch of bills. So now these bills are supposed to go to the Senate to have hearings and, to be heard and a vote.
Mm-hmm.
He's refusing to give them a vote, just like how he refused to give Obama's judicial candidate, Garland, a vote. So now everybody in Kentucky needs to go out and vote to replace him. Because he's the one that's been blocking everything and causing problems basically ever since Barack Obama was elected 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He said, on day one, we will not support anything that Barack Obama, proposes to do. And that's what they did the entire time, was try to block everything. That's when all this mess started. Mitch McConnell is responsible for it.
So hopefully we can get some of these career politicians who don't really care about democracy and a representative republic out of office here in the next, what is it, only 10 days away now? It's coming up here soon. So did you have anything else you wanted to say to Arkansans or Americans or anyone around the world watching this video today?
Yes. Arkansas, the women are riding to your rescue. Okay? We have lots of women candidates running under the Democratic banner. They have lots of ideas on how to improve the everyday lives of working families. I have other issues on my platform, including putting price caps on life-saving pharmaceutical meds like insulin, because people just cannot afford to spend $1,000 a month out of their pocket just to pay for their prescription. And insulin is something where if you don't have it, you will die.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. You're going to die. It's what was the third leading cause of death in the United States, but I think now it might have moved into number 4 position behind COVID. But yeah, we've got to get in front of this now. Arkansas is one of the heaviest states in the union. We all like our biscuits and gravy here. There ain't nothing wrong with that. But type 2 diabetes tends to go hand in hand along with, being overweight. So if we don't get in front of this problem now, it's going to just cause a lot of people, a lot of working, families to just have losses in their family because they can't get access to the medication that they need. Mm-hmm. Especially if they lost their insurance. Their insurance isn't paying for any of it right now. So, because they lost their job because of COVID. But it's a vicious cycle. We have to get in front of it. And Illinois, they just passed a law within the last 6 months or so to cap the price of insulin in their state at $100 a month.
Wow.
$100 a month is a lot more affordable for most working families than $1,000. And if Illinois can do it, there is no reason why Arkansas cannot.
Absolutely. I mean, that should be federal legislation. I mean, and what's really insane about insulin specifically is that you can have a factory that is creating insulin, and then they'll ship a box to the US and they'll ship a box to Canada, the same exact product made in the same exact place. But for some reason, that insulin that's being shipped to America is going to cost the consumer up to 5 or 10 times more. It is just crazy.
Right, and before COVID hit, we had a lot of diabetics. It was kind of like a caravan of people that would drive over the border to Canada and Mexico to get the medications. Each driver would drive like 50 or 100 miles and then hand off the box to the next person. But with COVID, the borders are closed. You can only get over the border now if you're like, an airplane pilot, or like I think they'd be a doctor, but might be able to go over the border if they have like special permission now. So that, travel route and try to get your meds for cheaper is closed. And they can't wait any longer. And the thing is, insulin, to me, it's a fair cap to go after because the scientists who created this, they sold the patents for $1. $1 because they wanted to better mankind. But then these pharmaceutical companies, they see it as an opportunity to price gouge and line their pockets. And that's just wrong.
Right.
It needs to stop.
And I believe there's only 3 companies that actually have that patent to create insulin, and that's why they are able to raise the price and price gouge people, basically, and price setting and things like that. So,
well, the price went up. I think it was 700% over the last couple of years.
It's insane.
So think about that, 700%. What if the price of a gallon of milk went up 700%?
Or gas.
A gallon of gas. Think about it.
Right? That's crazy. But hey.
Your mortgage. Yeah.
Right? Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about?
Well, I'm the first woman candidate that has ever ran for representative of this district. So, I'm really honored to have that. But honestly, somebody else should have ran probably 20 or 30 years ago. But for whatever reason, that never happened, down here in my district. I'm running against the Speaker Pro Tem of the House. So he's sitting on a pile of cash. He was able to raise over $100,000. Most, half of it basically was from PAC, and the other half of it was from his buddies in Little Rock. So, I'm in a David versus Goliath campaign. And if anybody wants to know more about my platform or make a donation, that would be great. I've raised less than $10,000. So, I was trying to raise money during the pandemic. Most of my events were canceled. So the same problem that you had with your events being canceled in the spring, right, which inhibited your ability to get the signature count for yours. It also inhibited my ability to do events to ask people to, donate to me. So I was only able to raise less than $10,000. $3,000 of that was basically a loan from myself to my campaign. The only PAC money I received was from the Paw PAC, the Progressive Arkansas Ribbon PAC, because they want to see more women get involved in politics, as do I, because we're over half the population, but we own percent of the seats at the table of power in Little Rock. So our voices are not really being heard as a result. So we've got lots of women candidates running. So no matter where you live in this state, you should be able to find a progressive Arkansas woman candidate on your ballot. So look for us and vote for us. We all need your help.
Awesome. Yeah, there's so many great women running in our state right now, and I'm really hoping that they can flip some of these seats from these incumbents who have become career politicians and who aren't looking out for our best interests. Well, I've had such a great time in this interview. I've learned so much, especially about solar and wind in our area, and to be able to raise almost $10,000 during a worldwide pandemic in a district where the average household income for a family of 5 is less than $25,000 a year. I mean, that's no small feat. I have your website right here, which is juneforarkansas.com. So make sure y'all check out her website, look at her policy. Because of your support for Medicare for All, eliminating student debt, and your aggressive stance on taking on climate change. You can't hear it right now, but there's an applause playing in the background for you. And you have my endorsement. I hope that we have more progressive female and male candidates like you just running in all of these different districts in Arkansas, because it's so important that we start to take our state back from people who deny things like climate change, who deny science, who deny giving healthcare as a basic human right, and have basically turned against all of the values of what it stands for to be an American. Awesome. Right. Well, thank you so much, June. I appreciate your time today. If you have any other questions or anything, you have my number. Always reach out to me. It's a pleasure. It always is a pleasure when I chat with you. I hope to see you here again soon. And thank you all so much for joining us today. I appreciate your time this afternoon on a Saturday. I usually don't do my live stream on Saturday afternoon because there's so much going on. But I appreciate your time, and I hope you guys take some time to check out the juneforarkansas.com. But thank you guys so much. You guys have a wonderful afternoon. May God bless y'all. May God bless America, and may God bless Arkansas.
Thank you.